Okay, so last week we left off with, you had been, you had your weekend of I gotta have liberty from all this craziness that you inflict on all that control, right? All the OCD kind of control issues, and then you had all the beers, and you had let go of all constraint, and in some level had a binge.
Yep.
Right? And then you were gonna have this party, and people were gonna come over. And you were getting anxious and irritable, and even told your husband to watch out because you were going to be a total bitch.
Right.
Because you were feeling already overwhelmed because of the list of finite details that you were going to have to do to make yourself feel like you had control over this party you were having at your house, right? So it's kind of taking over the actual party, which you love. You like to have parties.
Right.
So
you suggested that I go home and write down what I was going to do in each room and then do half of it. And I thought you were crazy because I've never not had a party where my house wasn't perfect in my own eyes, but I've never had a party that I enjoyed having. I'm always so tired and so stressed out because I spent so much time. I feel like it's not that my house is ever dirty, but it's just very lived in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, to me, I was gonna do the hardwood floors, mop them on my hands and knees, and my whole house is hardwood. So that's 3 bedrooms, a huge living room, and it's just like...
And rearrange the books, and rearrange the guest room, and reorganize.
So I did the guest room because I knew I would put coats and stuff in there, and that took 10 minutes. But I dust mopped everything. I didn't mop any of it. So I did half of what you suggested. I didn't touch my office. I didn't touch our bedroom. I just closed the door. And I had so much fun at that party. I didn't drink or anything like that either. So
did you have any irritability or anxiousness over not having it perfect? Like, how did it feel right before people were coming over? And did you have any issues?
No.
So
my husband even asked who I was.
So as soon as the decision was made in your mind that you were going to actually go through with doing half, there was immediate relief.
Yeah. I'm like, I can do this. So I took pictures to show you of the 2 rooms that I closed the door. Because I shoved so much stuff in there.
Well, and that's okay too. I mean, how many of us actually we do that? And it's really about finding a center balance. It's the extremist way of thinking that you were taught, which is where that comes from. It's almost as if you were trying to prepare for your parents, or if Jesus was coming over,
right?
And you were going to be under that kind of crazy judgment, which, if you know anything about Christianity, Jesus wouldn't have done that.
Right,
People do. People who think they're like that do that, but you're not.
But I think what stuck in my head is when you said they're not coming over to see how clean your house is. They're coming over to see you and to see my new product of the product line. And I'm like, that is so true. Not one person asked to go into the room that had closed doors. I mean, it was just
it makes you wonder, wow, how much of your behavior is this crazy delusion that was created from some fear of rejection.
And so many people just thought it was so nice. They would cut. It was an open house, so it was from 6 to 9. And I had a lot of people come around 6:30, but they stayed until 9.
So they enjoyed themselves? Yeah. How much of that is because you were really relaxed and having fun, and there was less pressure?
To everybody. Yeah.
You weren't as stiff and fearful. And
if that would have happened, and I would have done what I would have done and cleaned the whole house, and someone would have asked me a question that night, I would have been so irritated. It's really... But it's just now it was so much fun. I'm like, oh my gosh, let me show you this or whatever. So it was just a lot of fun.
And your husband totally could tell the difference. He
was
like, what?
Yeah, and he hung out and was in the kitchen and just helping people if they wanted wine or whatever.
So was that kind of a new experience for you?
Huge, yeah.
So it gave you a whole new perspective on maybe what you would like to do in the future.
And even I'm not taking things so personal anymore. I take everything so personally. If I ask, my sister, hey, I'd like to see the kids this weekend, and she says no because they're busy. I take that personally. But she's busy. She works full time. She goes to school full time. She's got 3 kids, and her husband does the same thing. goes
so
to
you
school
have more
full
empathy
time
for
and-
her.
Yeah, and so I'm just like, okay, so then
Oh, this is so
she,
great.
replied to me a different day, and I'm like, perfect, which is awesome. And I didn't take it bad. I didn't take it like,
She doesn't want to be with you. She doesn't want her kids to be around you.
Right.
So where does that idea that everybody else is so focused on you and not wanting to be with you, where does that come from? Because it's not real.
Right.
And now that you're not thinking that way, it isn't existing anymore.
I mean, I know my eyes are open a lot more to the things that you and I talk about. I mean, I don't know, it's just, it's a huge light that I'm not taking everything so to heart. I used to wear everything.
Well, and that's partly because you're taught to believe that someone else's view of you is your value. So if they don't want to be with you, that's a way of saying, I don't want to be with you.
Mm-hmm.
If they can't, so you end up taking everything as if, well, the way they're acting is a way to communicate their feelings for me. Therefore, it's all based on this perception. Again, it always goes to the parents' view of you, and then the way that you view the world from that point of view. Mm-hmm. They taught you to see it this way. And how would they react to your sister saying that?
It wouldn't have been a big deal.
What would it have been like when you were a child, though? Would they? They're very different. Wouldn't you agree now?
Oh yeah.
Because they've evolved as people, and they wouldn't do the same thing if they had to go back. I know it.
Right.
But how much of your view is created from that childhood fear of rejection?
Huge.
And so anything that resembled, and the other thing is, are you someone, or used to be someone that would put yourself at risk so that someone else would like you?
Yes, all the time.
You would have if she asked you to come over, you would have dropped everything, even though you didn't want to go see her, so she knew that you liked her.
That's my whole life.
Okay, but do you see why you would think that someone else would have to live to that standard?
Mm-hmm.
So you were taught to be an extremist, and then you enforce that extremist thought on other people, and they don't know why you're such a bitch. And you're really not a bitch. But that makes sense. And all of a sudden, you're loosening all of that extremism, and guess what's happening to the way you're feeling about other people?
Well, and to go back on that, it's hard because they expect that from me. They expect me to drop everything and come over, and that's why I do it. And it's like...
Well, you're enabling them to think that it's your job to take care of them then.
Right.
So as soon as you become yourself...
So that's what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm trying to, like...
react different.
Yeah.
Like you reacted different to your sister. She took a risk, by the way. No, if she knew that you were going to take that personally, if she knew you well enough, and the way she would be walking on eggshells around you.
Well, and she said, is that okay? Next Sunday okay? Like, you could totally tell in the text that she was just like, oh my gosh, I so do not want to ask this.
Oh
and
my
I'm
gosh.
like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like I was just not going to make a big deal about it. Cause it's just
was there a moment of sting?
To me?
Yeah, was
not at all.
Okay, so you're changing. Nothing is changing. And what do you think is going to happen as you change from within, and it's no longer their job to make you feel good about yourself? What's going to happen to them with you? They're going to start being more authentic with you.
Right.
And isn't that what you want?
Yeah, and I've cut them off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like now reaching out, and she did say, I hope you're finding your happiness. So she knew that I needed a break to try to figure out who I was, because it's hard. I don't know that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're
like,
getting there.
When you said last week, it makes sense why you overeat, because that's you just kind of unwinding, because you said I was so tightly wound.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to eat, that's kind of like me unwinding, and for me to drink, that's me unwinding.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat back and thought about that, and it makes complete sense. That's when I'm at peace, is when I'm eating, and it's sick.
Well, or when you were drunk.
Yeah.
It just shifted from, because drunk, everybody's judging you, and eating, everybody's likes you because everybody else is eating too. But it's not necessarily sick. It is an expected outcome from being so tightly wound.
But what I'm saying is sick is that I'm not my true self unless I'm eating. Like
that makes sense to you, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Because you're giving yourself the liberty to just chill,
be okay, and just to
and just and all of that false falsehood just drops. And then when you're eating, have you noticed you're happier and more joyful and more loving and caring and forgiving and accepting? And
yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the food.
No, it doesn't.
I know. But it all starts
because I could be eating anything, and I'm that way. It's like if I'm eating, not that I'm judging my food now, but it's like if I'm eating healthy food, like my vegetables and my protein and stuff, it's like I'm very, joyful in what you were saying. And if it's like I'm eating pizza, it's the same way. It's just...
It's like taking your incredible, undefinable soul and shoving it into a little box, and you need to explode. And eating allows you out. It gives you that explosion. And that's why you explode with that much food. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the problem isn't the food. It's not your reaction. It's the actual cause, which is this crazy fundamentalist extremist idea of perfection. And by kind of letting go of that box, all of a sudden you don't need to explode, and then you end up being centered and existing with what's real all the time. It never really goes away. It never really needs to get bigger. Because you're already, it's like taking a star and letting it just go.
Right.
Not trying to close it back up. Part of closing it back up is you may be afraid that people might not like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that?
Not yet.
Okay, so during the week, did that experience kind of change your week? I mean, did it change anything for you?
Well, especially even the next day, it changed for me. Like, because the party was Saturday night, and then Sunday I had another in-home show, and I was just so relaxed. It's just crazy.
And your need for eating excessively was like...
I didn't eat at all there. Usually I'll eat at someone's show just because that's what you do. And it's like I didn't eat at all. And the confidence that my hostess had about no one was going to show up. This is the part that I love about my part-time job, is that I get to boost their confidence, and I get to encourage them, and
to being yourself.
It's crazy because it's like
everything. Like, you're such a lover, you're such a carer. It's like this other side of you is so big.
She made a comment about, no one's gonna show up, and I told her, like, my show average is about $900 is what I usually sell at each of the home shows, and she's like, there's no way that's gonna happen. I'm like, okay, so I was going with no expectations.
Yeah.
And she closed her show at $1,100.
And she probably crapped her pants.
And she got like $225 worth of free stuff. And she's like, oh my gosh, I had to add to my list because I got so much stuff. I said, and that's what's awesome. It's like I got to sit there and encourage her and just say, okay, just think. Just, go back through the catalog and just keep looking. And it was just fun to see them go from being a little bit insecure, like nobody's going to show up because nobody... Okay. I'm just saying everything that you just said to me.
I know it. It's just so funny. Humans are funny. We're funny species. And
that's so funny because I'm sitting here just saying exactly what you just said to me last week. Because it's like...
You create all this weird fear.
They're coming there to hang out with her and be with her. She is the cutest little thing in the world.
And she didn't think so.
No.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. And, I give seminars all the time, and I could give a shit if I get 10 people or 1 person. Either way, even if no one showed up, it's just... Like, you just exist, and it's not someone else's job to make you feel better, and... You know what I mean? It doesn't make or break your soul.
Yeah.
All this crap that we take so damn serious, and when you really look at it, it's just, how much stuff have you taken so personal that it's just menial? But you know it now, right? You didn't know it then. But now you understand the behavior, and you understand the reaction to it. And then how you try to compensate, and it's this huge pendulum swing. It's just vicious, and it's awful.
Well, and even my doctor said something to me yesterday, and I took it so personal. And I'm just like, we gotta change that, Yeah,
because whatever they say doesn't really... If your doctor's really... If their intent is to help you... Whether you like what they have to say or not, listen to what the intent is. Oh my gosh, I can be so brutal. You know it.
Right.
But you know my intention. So how many times have I told you you're full of shit?
None.
But you know it's because you need to hear it. You know, so sometimes when people give you their opinion, know what the intent is and whether you're accepting it or not, you know.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation. But all in all, let's talk about your food intake this week. Did you follow your hunger all week? Did you have any days where you were like totally ignoring it? Or any moments?
Ignoring my hunger?
Yeah, where you're not hungry, but you're just gonna, damn it, you're gonna eat anyways just because you're entitled to it.
Yeah, I kind of did a little bit.
What was the trigger to it?
Because it was sitting there on the break room table.
So that's habit.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily.
It's more habit than anything. It was nuts.
It's just because it's there. That's like going to Costco and there's free food and you're like, oh, it's free. That's kind of like a bad habit based on the accessibility of food, as if there's going to be famine if you don't touch it or eat it. Like you're never going to get to eat again.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think you always need to be aware of those little things, you know.
It's like I have such great intentions at the beginning of the day. You know, like I'm like, okay. I talk to myself all the time. Just I'm only gonna eat when I'm, hungry, and I'm gonna stop when I'm full. And it's just like such a routine at work. It's like, okay, my break's at 9 o'clock, I eat. My lunch break's at 11.
Yeah, it's
I
like
eat.
someone that goes out to smoke at the same time every time. It's the same thing. This is where you have to
So
get
I've kind
really
of gone back into like eating every couple of hours, which I have great intentions in the beginning of the morning.
Well, you got to get to the point where you're just done, because you know it's sabotaging your own health and well-being.
Yeah.
This is why it's like, when you're on the protocol, and we didn't weigh, but you full as well wanted to lose weight, right? Mm-hmm. Can you see why it's so ridiculous to even monitor that obsessively over the scale?
Yeah.
Because in reality, the reality is what's the problem. It's not how restrictive you are on a diet. It's reality we have to change. And this is part of the learning process. So during this time, I mean, you have to find the desire, because if the real desire isn't there, Kelly, be happy with the outcome of your body. Be okay with the outcome.
Well, and I so badly wanted to do the protocol without truly digging too deep. Obviously, I read your book, and you and I talked for about a month before I started it. But it's like I'm getting more out of this
reality
than I got, so it's like I'm excited to do it again just to see,
Good. I know it's such a process.
It is such a process.
I know. And there's no way I could have been
done this beforehand. There's no way.
No, because everybody's so different.
Yeah, and I wasn't in this spot. I mean, it was worse.
No, but you had to go through this, and this. But the beauty of that first protocol is you know what hunger feels like. You've mastered that. You know your body. Mm-hmm. That is the foundation of moving forward, and you've got a foundation that was really big, because now we can actually work on real life. Mm-hmm. That's why I tell people, get in real life as much as you can, because you've got to prepare yourself, and you can't necessarily get everything in 8 weeks of the very low calorie protocol, or 6 weeks or 4 weeks or 3 weeks. You can't. Mm-hmm. And so why do you think when someone starts the method with me, it's not just 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Because it's like we got to work through reality.
Yeah, it went way too fast, because like right now I'm done with that 3 week in between. It's like I could start another one this weekend, and I'm like, I don't want to. I'm
good. I'm so happy to hear that.
I know that it's like I'm not ready at all. It's like I want to start it because I want it to be over with again, but it's just like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
No, you need
because I like this part. I want to get back to this part again. So let's just get it over with.
Well, you need to get to where you're like, okay, food really has very little meaning to me. Mm-hmm. When you're getting there, and by these little things like this next week, the challenge is let yourself go into the break room, go like 5 times a day. Just walk in there intentionally to prove that food has no power over you. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like acknowledging that there's this passive habit, and then making it a point to let go of whatever pull it's got on you.
Because I don't weigh myself anymore.
Well, and you should. What's the whole point of that?
Right.
Besides making you feel like crap. You know what I mean? Because you're judging it, and I don't want you to judge it at all. Because your body is beautiful. It's amazing. You know, your body it honestly is capable of creating another human being. Have you thought about that? You're capable of creating a human being. Now, do you have to meddle in the body's business to make sure you create the perfect human body if you get pregnant? Have you ever thought of that? So then, why would anybody second guess their own body's hunger? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now that you've got that established, you trust the body, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
So now it's really about looking at
Habits.
the whole,
Yeah.
the habit, the whole that you've got inside, the habits that you've created that are just like.
It's still the whole OCD thing coming out.
Some of it is
in a different form because it's all about routine.
Well, and here's the thing about routine, because we are human and we are creatures of habit, right? How much of it do you take as your personality? I mean, personality being you've created an identity around perfection. That's where things go wrong. Mm-hmm. You know, I always say I'm hardly wearing makeup today, but I live in the same judgmental society you do, and I comply. But it isn't really I don't let someone else's judgment define my value, and nor do I need to judge myself against someone else's ideology. You know, I want to love myself the same way I love my children. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm totally ADD right now. I think I went in 3 different areas of conversation in my head, but you know, I think you just have to stop. Don't define yourself by OCD. That's a definition of low self-worth. It just means you're trying to find worth and finding control, which is going to set you up for addiction. So once you find self-worth and you really love the perfect soul God created within you, that's the perfect being that is with no matter what, then all of a sudden the OCD just kind of falls away. It's kind of like, It's something that doesn't need to be forced. There's just no like bullet point list to, you know, here's how you stop having an OCD. It doesn't work that way. Right. It's kind of like it starts from the core of yourself, accepting what it is, loving what it is, letting that be who you are, and then everything else goes away. So, am I making any sense?
You are.
Okay.
You always do. But it won't be until next Wednesday when I get it.
Oh, that's what you meant by that.
Oh, there you go.
Well, because it shouldn't be this thing that really takes a whole lot of...
Well, I mean, when you were saying last week, it's like, it made sense to me that I have those routines, and if I don't follow through on the routine, I get very crabby.
Yeah.
And I never would consider myself OCD or have routines or stuff because it's just something that I do.
Well, when you create the idea that the routine makes you happier, you're stuck with the routine.
Right.
So that's why it's like if you're happy inside.
I'm breaking the routine.
Yeah, and deciding
I'm
happy.
I'm still living.
And happy. And you feel better. And it's finding the middle ground, you know, Yeah, I mean, it was like me and the exercise stuff. I had these weird ideas on how many calories I had to burn, how much time had to be there, the feeling of exhaustion that I had to reach before I could stop. And then once you start doing it, you think you have to, once you start doing that and get this false sense of ego or control or power or I'm better or I'm happier because of that feeling, then you're an addict, you know? So it's taking those actions and recognizing that all they are is a representation of how little happiness you create with nothing, you know? And so by creating this love for who you are and happiness that you're the owner of, it's not the perfect sequence and order of that's making you happy. You just attached it to the sequence. So by messing the sequence up, kind of like I told you, it's like now you're forced to actually find the same excitement. And I'm so glad you did. Because that's what people are afraid of. They're afraid of, well, if I don't do this way, then I'm not going to be happy. Because I don't know how to be happy.
You're actually happier.
Oh my gosh. Well, cleaning your house has a limit to how happy it can make you. Because there's always the downside. which is how much time it's going to require, how much your knees are going to be bruised from being on the wet. I mean, there's always a side effect.
Right.
And this is kind of where we're trying to get you to shift away from food. It's like, well, sure, food you think makes you happy. Access and freedom to it has been a relief from your OCD or your need to control.
Right.
To feel happy. But if you inside create happiness, what happens to both sides? You don't need control and you don't need to compensate for that control. And all of a sudden your choices become in the middle. Mm-hmm. You know, that swing, the pendulum goes boom, and it stays there, and it's almost as if you don't need someone's control, you don't need your control, you don't need compensation, you don't need to feel released from control, because really the control is what's existing authentically with you. Deep thoughts. I'm Robin. You feel good?
Yeah, I do.
I'm really proud of you.